This week for Apple, was it a breakout moment or a sign of rising risks? The company posted its biggest quarter ever for the iPhone, shattering records and grabbing more market share. At the same time, it made a surprising move to open its walled garden, preparing to allow outside AI chatbots into CarPlay for the first time. With chip shortages still a problem and memory costs on the rise, how is Apple balancing record-breaking demand with an increasingly complex supply chain? Welcome to TickerWatch News for Apple, Week 6, 2026. This is your weekly briefing on the news and developments for Apple. Stock Snapshot. It was a mixed but notable week for Apple stock, which stood out as a safe haven for some investors. While the broader tech sector, including many of the Magnificent Seven, faced a significant sell-off, Apple shares demonstrated resilience, at times gaining ground while the Nasdaq declined. This divergence came after the company posted record quarterly sales. Over the last month, the stock has seen modest gains. Fundamentally, the stock continues to trade at a premium, with a price-to-earnings ratio in the mid-30s, reflecting high investor expectations following its recent performance. Top news and headlines. Apple reported its best sales quarter in history for the iPhone, a result of strong performance in the final quarter of 2025. The company's market share expanded to 69%, up from 65% a year ago. This growth was driven by robust sales of its iPhone 17 models and the mid-range iPhone 16e. The results were particularly strong in Greater China, where revenue grew 38% year-over-year. However, the company is facing supply chain headwinds. CEO Tim Cook confirmed that supply constraints are limiting its ability to meet the surging demand and warned that rising memory chip prices, driven by the AI boom, would have a more significant impact in the coming quarter. In a major strategic shift, Apple is preparing to allow third-party, voice-controlled AI applications within its CarPlay interface. This move would permit drivers to use AI chatbots from companies like Google or OpenAI in their vehicles for the first time. The change won't let users replace the dedicated Siri button, however. Instead, a user would need to open a specific app to activate its voice control. This comes as Apple is working on its own AI upgrade, internally called World Knowledge Answers, to give Siri more web search and summarization capabilities. On the product development front, Apple is reportedly scaling back its ambitions for a virtual health coach. The project, known as Mulberry, has been halted. Instead, Apple plans to gradually incorporate some of its planned capabilities into the existing health app. Analysts see this not as a retreat, but as a more cautious approach, possibly to ensure data privacy and accuracy before launching a more comprehensive AI health. Finally, in a significant move for its global supply chain, Apple secured a key tax exemption in India. The new policy allows Apple to provide manufacturing equipment to its local contract partners like Foxconn and Tata without creating a taxable business presence. This change is expected to lower capital costs and accelerate Apple's expansion of iPhone manufacturing in the country, supporting Apple's long-term goal of diversifying production away from China. Market reaction and investor sentiment. Investor sentiment around Apple was largely positive this week, with many analysts focusing on Apple's strong execution. In the wake of its record-breaking earnings report, several firms raised their price targets. JP Morgan lifted its target to $325, Goldman Sachs increased its target to $330, and Rosenblatt moved its target to $267. Evercore ISI, while removing Apple from a short-term tactical list, maintained its outperform rating with a $330 target, reflecting long-term confidence. However, the view isn't universally bullish. One Needham analyst called Apple's deal to use Google's Gemini AI selling its soul to the devil, expressing concern that it limits Apple's own upside in the AI race. Other analysts flagged that rising memory costs could pressure margins and that the company didn't provide detailed guidance on the matter. Despite these concerns, many investors appeared to treat Apple as a safe harbor, with its stock outperforming the broader tech market during this week's AI-related sell-off. Technical and fundamental check-in. From a technical perspective, Apple's stock sent a bullish signal this week by crossing above its 50-day moving average. Historical analysis of similar events suggests that the stock has often continued to climb in the month following such a crossover. On the fundamental side, the story is one of strength balanced by a high valuation. The record-breaking first quarter, which saw revenue of $143.8 billion, was driven by a 23% year-over-year jump in iPhone sales and a 14% increase in the high-margin services division. The company's active installed base now exceeds 2.5 billion devices. However, this performance comes with a valuation that some see as elevated, with a price-to-sales ratio of over 9. This suggests investors are pricing in continued strong growth, which could be challenged by the supply constraints and rising component costs the company has flagged. What to watch next week? Looking ahead, the most immediate factor to watch is how Apple navigates its supply chain challenges. CEO Tim Cook specifically warned that AI-driven memory chip shortages will have a more significant impact in the March quarter. Investors will be monitoring any updates on how the company is managing these rising costs and production limitations for its most popular devices. Longer term, all eyes are on Apple's next moves in artificial intelligence. The integration of Google's Gemini models into Siri and the broader Apple intelligence ecosystem is a major development. More details are expected at Apple's Worldwide Developers Conference in June, which will be a key catalyst for understanding Apple's strategy to compete in the generative AI space. The rollout and capabilities of these new AI features will be critical for driving the next iPhone upgrade cycle. Thank you for tuning in to TickerWatch. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute financial advice. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode.